Welcome into another edition of the James Boyd Podcast. I, of course, am James Boyd, not joined by my editor, Jim Aiello. He is out for a very positive reason. I'll let him share that when he feels is necessary. But in the meantime, we have Stephen Holder from ESPN joining us amid a Colts season that has been surprisingly positive. 6-1, Stephen. Crazy start to the season. And so I'll dive right into it, man. 6-1. You're rolling. The offense is looking like it's unstoppable. The big question that is getting louder every day around here is, do you think the Colts should make a trade?
I think they should make the right trade, yes. If it presents itself, which, lots of ifs, ands, or buts and all that. But I do think that this has a chance to be a special season. And if you believe that, if you're Chris Ballard, and I don't think you have any reason not to believe that, if you're him and Carly Ursay and her sisters, Carly Ursay Gordon, excuse me, I think that 7 games is a big sample size to judge your team and to make judgments about who you are. And I mean, I certainly have. I didn't do it after 3 games or four, but now, I mean, 5, 6, 7 games. I mean, I think this is who they are, right? So as they get stronger and as their division, as the division foes start to fade, I don't see Houston getting their act together right now. Tennessee is doing what they're doing. Uh, the Jaguars have an identity crisis. They don't know if they're good or not. I certainly don't know. So, you're playing for you're trying to finish this thing and get a home game in the playoffs at minimum right now. That's where the bar is. And frankly, the goals should be much higher than that. So I would say to get where they want to go, I am not sure the defense as currently constituted can get them there. I have doubts. And I'm not blaming anybody. I think this is just Mother Nature. It's injuries. But we are where we are. And so anyway, that's a very long-winded statement. But I just think that right time and place, I think this is a year to break your rules. Chris Ballard is not usually a buyer at the deadline. And frankly, I don't really advocate for being a buyer at the deadline very often because it's usually fool's gold. Teams don't trade away good players, or at least players that don't have problems, right? But
This is
again,
true.
this is a unique situation. So, we'll see. Let's see what it looks like. Depending on the deal, I say yes.
I think on top of what you just discussed, for me, I'm just more on board with it probably than I expected to be at this point in the season. First of all, I mean, if I'm being quite honest and getting truth serum here on the show, I would have thought at this point in the season, if you asked me if the Colts going to make a trade, yeah, it'd be sellers, not buyers.
Right, right.
The Daniel Jones experience hasn't gone well. Your defense with Lou Anarumo doesn't look too good. And, it's a disaster the year after Jim Irsay passes, yada, yada, yada. It's been the opposite of that. And so I think I've gained more conviction week to week with, wait a second, this offense isn't just good, it's Super Bowl good. And the way Daniel Jones is playing isn't just game managey, let's not make a mistake. Oh, it's no, I won't make a mistake, but I'll also beat you over the head with down the field throws, timely throws, big plays. Not to mention JT's been running wild, going crazy. So I think the way I look at would I make a trade, I guess it depends, like you said, what's the price? How aggressive do you want to be? I don't think this is the world of let's go get Trey Hendrickson. They're not going to move him. The Bengals never really make in-season trades. Let's nip that in the bud there. They also won a big game last week against Pittsburgh, so I don't expect him to be someone on the market. But I put out a list this week at The Athletic. There are some names out there. Miami Dolphins, they're a disaster. The Titans are a disaster. Could you get an edge rusher for one of those guys, or for one of those teams rather? Because to me, if you can get somebody for a fourth or fifth round pick, it might be worth taking a flyer on if you feel like this is a window where you want to capitalize on it. And I say that because in a way, the Colts are an older team. They really are a win now team. Not saying they're not like they got the cheap quarterback, but he's not on the rookie deal.
No, they've
When
been a veteran team
I
for
was gonna say,
actually
can you
several
kind of like
years.
speak to that a
Yes.
little bit? Because to me, that's what I've kind of come around to as well. Is like, okay, if you don't go for it now, when do you go for it? Because your best players aren't young.
I had this thought a lot in the offseason because in this context, like if the Colts didn't make some kind of move this year, and move is the wrong word because we're talking about trades. I mean, like if they didn't turn a corner this year, I felt like this was the last go around for this core of players. Because if they couldn't make some progress this year and you're back sitting around 500, then what are we even doing, right? That's kind of where I was at with this. This group, as currently constituted, has had chance after chance after chance and hasn't done a damn thing. Okay, they haven't been terrible, but they haven't done anything substantial. So coming into this season, that was where I was at. Was like, all right, this is your last chance. All right, Zaire Franklin, Michael Pittman, all these guys. Not saying they're all gone. I'm just saying that core of players,
Yeah,
whatever,
DeForest Buckner,
whatever.
Quentin Nelson,
Right,
Kenny Moore. Like you're not.
right,
These guys are
right.
later 20s, early 30s now.
Love you guys individually. Collectively, you haven't done anything, right? So that's where I was at with it. And so it is a very stark contrast now to see where they are sitting in the driver's seat with the best record in the NFL. And they very much are in the driver's seat. Like this is going to be up to them if they finish this or not. And so I do agree with you. Like that has to be taken into context here, right? It's do I think Daniel Jones will be back here? More than likely. I mean, if he wants to be, right? So, he's still young, so he's
Yeah,
not the
28.
question, right? He's not the question, but I do think you do have to take into account the rest of that core. Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, over 30 years old, Quentin Nelson, just about, Zaire Franklin getting there. I mean, all these guys. Jonathan Taylor is one of the best players in the NFL this season. There's no question about it. But we keep waiting for that time where the running back starts to decline, right? Because we know unless you defy Mother Nature, that tends to happen, right? And somehow he has risen above that. Good for him. But all I'm saying is like those are realities. I agree with you that you have to think about context, and that is the context. I do agree with that. And lifespans in the NFL are so short. People forget that. I mean, take a look at, I mean, the Dolphins are a great example, right? I mean,
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago, we were like, man, the Dolphins are going to be a force in the AFC. And now it's like they're ready to drop a grenade in the locker room and just break that whole thing up,
Yeah.
right? Like it's over.
Yeah.
It's over. Like Tyreek Hill's like, I don't know if I'm playing next year. I mean,
Right.
the whole thing is
Well,
over.
Tyreek
Like
and his leg will probably say I'm not playing next year, but continue.
exactly. So that's a reality check. That's
Yeah.
how fast it happens, man. And and I think that is a reminder for the Colts and everybody else, frankly. Like that's where we are, and you have to think about it in the here and now because tomorrow in the NFL, what does it even mean, right? It means nothing.
Yeah. I mean, they always tell us what not for long. And I think that goes for players, windows, and anything kind of under that umbrella. So, in my mind, make the move, make the trade. We have seen Chris Ballard be more aggressive this calendar year when it comes to the offseason and, making moves to try to get different players in here, marquee players. So, there has been a shift in his philosophy. The question is, will that shift even more considering he's only made one in-season trade during his first 8 years of his tenure, year nine? Will he pull the trigger again and try to get somebody in here who can help you right away? Because last thing I'll say on this topic is I think if you can talk me into the cornerbacks can get healthy and the Travaris Ward will be back, Jalen Jones is back practicing now, you'll get some help there. But that pass rush, that to me is probably the most concerning. You're not getting home enough. I believe they're like 20th in like sack percentage rate. They might be like seventh in total sacks, but who cares if you're not getting there on a per throwing basis. So yeah, I get it. You invest a lot already. You have a bunch of draft picks, high draft picks. Them dudes ain't performing. You got a window, seize it and try to, especially in the AFC. To your point, you kind of made a broader AFC that's kind of wide open right now. The Bills aren't infallible. The Chiefs aren't undefeated right now. Like these teams look like they could be beat. So if
And
this
it's
is
the
your
first time
shot,
we've
go
been
for
able
it.
to say that. This is the first
Oh,
time we've been
in
able to say
years,
that in years.
in
Right.
years, in years. So to pivot a bit, I think a big part of why we feel like this team has taken off is because of Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor playing some great football. So my question is, who is your Colts MVP so far? Because I
Hmm.
feel like a good argument could be made for either player, but also I don't know. I feel like I could get talked into the running back, the quarterback, but they go hand in hand. So I don't know. Like, which way are you leaning so far?
I mean, I'd throw another name in. There's a few times this year where I'm like, is it Tyler Warren? But
Oh,
it's not.
that's another dart. Nah, no joke. He's changes the map
But
for them.
like he's like offensive rookie of the year
Yeah,
already. I mean, that's crazy.
yeah,
Here's my logic on this. Um, I would say Daniel Jones is the most valuable player. Jonathan Taylor is the best player. They're
that's
not the
probably
same
fair.
thing. And here's why I make a distinction because I don't have to explain why I think Jonathan Taylor is the best player on the team. I mean, I would have said
Do you
that,
have
you
eyes,
know,
Stephen Holder?
right. Like if you're listening to this podcast and you need that explained to you, well, then I think this is probably not the podcast for you. But I would say he's far and away has been their best player, frankly, since he got here. I think
Yeah.
that's been clear. The issue though is that he's been doing this, what he's doing now, for most of his career, and they don't have a lot to show for it. I am not
Mhm.
suggesting that it hasn't been valuable. It is very valuable. There's no question, but singularly, it's not enough. Okay, what the reason I think Daniel Jones is more valuable is because what he is doing has a broader impact. All right. By extension of being the quarterback, just that's all it is, right? The quarterback has the ball in his hands every play. By virtue of being the quarterback, he can make other guys better, and he is doing that. Now, is he being put in position to succeed by Shane Steichen? Absolutely. But so what? So is Patrick Mahomes by his
Right.
coach.
Isn't that the
So
idea,
is
right?
right. So Jalen Hurts has been in that situation for
He's a
4 years,
system
right?
quarterback. Well, yes, we want him to work in our system.
Yes, the system works and he's good in it. Yes, every good quarterback is a system quarterback. You know who was a system quarterback? Joe Montana. Okay. Bill Walsh had a decent system. He was a
Right.
pretty decent system quarterback. So, look, I mean, clearly, there's no question that Daniel Jones, I think, is probably more a function of the system than just pure talent necessarily. And I hate talking like that because I don't want to make it sound like he doesn't have talent. He is very talented. I think his ability to throw on the run and him getting out of the pocket the way he
Oh, he's
has.
not sneaky athletic. He's not. Does he have
No,
moxie?
right. I mean, he has created another dimension where like they have to at least guard against the possibility of him getting out of the pocket, all those things, right? So he's throwing the ball better than I anticipated, just in terms of just pure throwing the ball. But look, I mean, yeah, he is. There's no question. Him and Shane Steichen working hand in hand is a great match. That he is the perfect quarterback for this system. Uh, I take Anthony Richardson for example, right? The Anthony Richardson, in retrospect, now looking back,
Mhm.
he was not the right quarterback for this system because this system, if now that we are seeing it in its totality, this offensive system needs a quarterback who is less of an athletic freak and more of a quarterback who understands the game at an
Yeah.
elite level.
Like
And
the
that was
mental
never going to be.
processing. I think the processing is Daniel Jones' superpower, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is, and that is the most important element in this system. I don't think Shane Steichen necessarily looks at his quarterback and says, "I need a freak." Now, great, sure, I'll take one, right? But I mean, he didn't really have that with Jalen Hurts, frankly. As much as we talk about Jalen Hurts in those terms, I mean, Jalen isn't out here doing Michael Vick things,
Right.
okay,
Or Cam
or
Newton.
Lamar Jackson things, right? I mean, I think sometimes we mischaracterize him. So, and Shane Steichen had a little bit of success with him. Okay, I mean, I think they might have went to a Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. So, I really think looking back at it, and I know we had Justin Herbert and all that, but looking back at it, really for him, this system is built around a quarterback and his decision making. And it is going to position the quarterback to make make great decisions. If he can make great decisions, it's going to position the quarterback to make a lot of plays. So it's a very long-winded way of saying Daniel Jones uh, has taken that opportunity and turned it into a really good season. He's the perfect quarterback at the perfect time in the perfect system, and none of this would be happening maybe with a different quarterback.
Absolutely. And I don't like to agree with you. So, I mean, this is me saying a lot you hear, but I would agree. And I would go back to what you and Joel A. Erickson and Mike Chappell, the dean, tell me about the 2021 season where JT went off, right? And he led the league in rushing and he was unstoppable, first team All Pro,
Hmm.
and you didn't make the playoffs. And
Yeah,
so I think him being
in
in this
part
offense,
because of the quarterback play at the
exactly.
end.
And
Yeah,
they didn't have
yeah,
enough. So, best
right.
player, most valuable player. I guess it's a good problem to have that we're even debating this. I mean, you could throw Quentin Nelson in there. How good has he been as far as helping things, get going this year offensively? I would hate to see him come around the corner or as a pulling guard and you see 56 in front of you. It's like, okay, well, get out the way or get ran over. But I think the creativity we've seen from Shane, the efficiency from Daniel Jones, just JT being an elite bag, like you said, Tyler Warren. I think he's playing at an all pro level. I think he's first
Hmm.
team all pro if the season ends today. Like he's been that good.
Yeah.
So you mix all that together, you got a pretty darn special offense that, again, going back to our first point, it makes you wonder how all in should we be with our defense. So, yeah, I would agree. Daniel Jones, team MVP, but best player, JT. And what's crazy is if he scores 3 touchdowns Sunday, which is a possibility against the Titans, whoop de doo, breaking news. And the reason why I'm not even mentioning them much on this podcast, by the way, is that here's what you need to know: the Colts have the best point differential in the league. The Titans have the worst. Do the math. I would think that the Colts are very much, the favorites in this game, and the Titans are very much the underdog. So maybe my MVP debate will come down to this, Steven. Who can pad their stats the best against the Titans? Who does Shane Steichen pull first when it comes to
Right.
reps and trying to keep people healthy?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a great opportunity, but I think this is going to be one of the few games they have left where they have to really just like lock in and not look ahead.
Yeah,
Big game next week at Pittsburgh, right? The next few weeks, frankly, are huge, but they got to lock in and don't fall into that trap. And I honestly, if we know Shane Steichen well enough to know that ain't going to happen, man. I don't think it will.
no,
It has
definitely not.
happened before, but I think this team, Zaire Franklin said this best to me a couple weeks ago. He said, we've had teams in the past that would have fallen into that. He's like, this team is different. Like we won't that won't happen here this year. So I
Yeah,
appreciate like the self awareness, the fact that he admitted, and maybe last year even, that
absolutely.
team was different and may have fallen into like a trap game situation. I don't think this team is built that way.
Absolutely. And to kind of show some love to some other guys, I feel we talk so much about who's the MVP, who's the best player, quarterback, running back, Quentin Nelson, Tyler Warren. Who do you think has been the most underrated Colt so far this season?
Hmm. This is a good question.
Because I got one I could throw out there, and I think I might be leaning towards my boy Nick Cross. I
That's a good
think
one.
Nick Cross is having a hell of a season in a contract year at a position that for a couple years there, the Colts really didn't have a surefire answer. They were playing him
No,
at
they
free
were
safety early
searching.
in his career, moving to strong safety. Obviously, the arrival of Cam Bynum playing that free safety spot helps you a ton, but I feel like he's just playing free and focused, and it's not like overthinking. And the dude will certainly hit you when it comes to line of scrimmage plays. Got a couple sacks this year, I believe. Had a great pick last week against the Chargers. I think he's really coming into his own and could be someone you look at and say, okay, there's our strong safety of the future.
Yeah, I love that pick. I would also throw another name into the ring, Tanner Bortolini. I think at center,
Oh,
and I
I
don't know if
do
he's
like that.
underrated.
I
I
like
don't know if he's
that.
underrated because I think we appreciate what how he's played, but uh, I really am impressed with how he has come in and taken ownership of that job. It's an underrated, important job,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
starting center, and for them to, I think the way they have handled pass protection and blitzes and all of that this year, to have the sack percentage that they have in terms of allowing sacks, they're at the top in all those categories. And the center is like the focal point of all of that. You know, he has obviously a very intelligent quarterback behind him, helping him out in that regard. But the center has to be on the screws. And this guy, and I don't just mean that he's handling it mentally. He also, if you watch him physically, he's made some key blocks this year and has been really physical and has shown some athleticism that I wasn't necessarily sure he had. So I really think he's done a great job.
Oh, absolutely. That's a good pick. He's also a very unique personality.
I love
I
him.
feel
Yeah.
like he's got and I would say most offensive linemen are pretty reserved, but he's got a little character to him, and it can't be overlooked, like you said, and just kind of piggyback off of that idea. Ryan Kelly was the man here for a long time. And I get that the end wasn't all that great. And even now he's dealing
Yeah.
with some injuries. And I certainly feel for him in all seriousness, Ryan Kelly, with the concussions, and praying for him and his family that he can, you know, one, be healthy post football, but kind of end his career on his own terms. But knowing that you were going to move on from him to strike gold basically with a fourth round pick is a big deal, because Ryan Kelly was a first round pick, if I'm not mistaken.
He was.
So
Yeah.
everyone knew he was going to be the man. Tanner Bortolini, yes, you were kind of groomed to be that, but it wasn't a given. It wasn't a surefire pick, because if it was, obviously he would have been drafted a lot higher. So he's
And I
playing
would
well.
add, that that 2024 draft, we always judge it on like the first round pick, which was Latu,
Right.
and I think Latu's playing fine. I know people want more sacks. Actually has a surprising number of pressures, I would say.
Yeah.
But anyway, that being said, that was maybe an underrated draft. I think to get
Hmm.
two offensive line starters outside the first round, and what was Gonsalves was in the third round, I
Yeah.
believe.
Third round. Yep.
And then, as you said, Bortolini in the fourth. I mean, to get two offensive line starters in the middle rounds. Now, you can get starters in those rounds
Yeah.
for the offensive line, but to get two back to back in the middle of one draft like that, that's really good stuff.
Absolutely. And to hit home runs on both of them, again, you
Yeah,
can't overlook that. When much we talk about Daniel Jones and his success, how much of that is tied to the fact that he's not running for his life anymore. Like
yeah,
you got time. He's actually holding on to the ball, I believe, more here than he did with the Giants, but it's because
that
he
is
has
true.
time to do it without getting obviously obliterated and banged up. The other thing I want to pivot to, I think this is a sneaky kind of underlying storyline for this game against the Titans is, will AD Mitchell get out of the doghouse? Now, I had a chance to talk to him this week, Steven, and he was candid, and I could tell you, I was like, man, AD Mitchell, I'm just like, there are obviously you see some of the plays on the field and some of the just boneheaded decisions, and he'll drive you crazy. And then you talk to him, and you're like, you know what? I might be back in on this guy, because he owned everything. I talked to him for 10 minutes the other day, Steven, and to kind of fill you in, he basically said, yeah, like, I know people want to ask me, do I think about the play? Did I mess this up? He was like, hell yeah. I think about it all the time. He said, there's not a moment when I don't think about it. And the most candid thing that he said was, I don't know. He said, I hope I haven't played my last offensive snap, because he knows Josh Downs is getting healthy this week. Ashton Doolin's getting
Hmm.
healthy this week. Alec Pierce is back in the lineup. What does that mean for me? I only had, about 15 snaps a game before all of this happened. And then now I'm looking at this and saying, how do I gain some trust back when the guys ahead of me are already solidified in Shane's eyes? And as we know, Shane has never said this explicitly, but man, when you break his trust, to me, it is hard to kind of live that down. Not that he's holding it against you. I think if he finds a better option,
Well, he has options, right?
it's very
Exactly.
hard for him to pivot from that. And to kind of throw you the alley oop here, why would they give AD Mitchell the opportunity when you have the number one offense in the NFL? You know what I mean? Like, I guess if you're making a case for putting him out there, Stephen, what are you saying? And I guess if you're making a case against it, what are you saying in against putting him out there?
Well, they don't have to force them. They don't have to force it, right? And it does put him. in a tough spot where they will, if healthy, all right, and they will be this week, we think, if healthy, they don't have to bend over backwards to get him opportunities. Like they're fine. Okay. I mean, they could throw the ball to any one of Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Tyler Warren, Josh Downs, and I'm probably forgetting one or two. They could throw it to those guys all day long and get as many yards as they would like.
Right.
Okay. And AD Mitchell could go like, you know, sit in street clothes and no one would miss him. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
So if and when he gets back into the rotation, it is going to have to be deliberate by the Colts. And so that puts the onus on him to force their hand to do everything they've asked you to do and do such a good job in practice earning the right that they have to talk among themselves and say the coaches and say, all right, we got to find a place for AD. He's earned this. So I don't know what that's going to take, but all I'm saying is it's going to have to be very deliberate on their part. So if and when he gets back into the rotation, it will say something to me. It will say, okay, they're really in on him because again, there is no need for them to go out of their way to do it. They're only going to do it because they want to. So not
Yeah.
because they need to. Again, unless injuries crop up again. But that's why it will be meaningful if and when he gets back in the rotation because I think that would say they're back in on him. It won't be just like, all right, he's here, just throw him in there.
Let me
It's
ask you
going to be
this then.
deliberate.
Is it worth throwing him back in there, even if you don't need him, just in case you might down the line?
Well,
Because
that's
you know this
fair.
game, you know how this game goes. Like you could, have an opportunity where a couple guys get banged up and everything changes.
Right.
Like that's
Yeah.
that's a real thing. So I just wonder, like, is it worth kind of like sticking the carrot out in front of his nose? Like, all right, make sure you stay engaged. We still love you, just in case. Because as much as I love Josh Downs, he is a littler receiver. The
Yeah.
durability, not I want to say concerns, but
It's a reality.
I don't know if he's played like every game of his career so far. I think he's always
No,
missed
I
a
don't
couple
think so.
games here and there through his first 2 or 3 seasons in the league. So could I interest you in
Yeah,
that proposition?
I think that is a reasonable thing to discuss, like to debate if you're the coaching staff. Not only that, but even not to say they're thinking this way, but we can talk this way. You could even take it further and say he may have to step up and play next year because I don't know
Yeah.
what the lineup's going to look like, right? I mean, will Alec Pierce be here as we sit here
Oh, pay
today?
him. That's
Well, right,
different
but
type of different day, but pay him. Yes, but to your point,
right.
yeah,
As we sit here today, like they are not any closer to making a deal with
right.
him.
Good point.
So, he could be gone. And listen, they will have competition there. Okay. Like he's gonna get some offers. No question about that. So anyhow, there will come a time when they may need AD Mitchell, whether it's this year, next year, whenever. He was drafted with some of that in mind. He was drafted with the idea that these receivers out there are getting more and more expensive, and we have to backfill.
Hmm.
That's why he was drafted, right? And also they just love his talent, but like that's a reality. So I think there's something to be said for that. I wouldn't be opposed to that line of thinking, and I don't think there's any harm in it. This is maybe a good game to do it, right? Let's say they do get a lead, and I don't want to predict that because I mean, teams just don't go around winning by 3 touchdowns. Like this is not real life. Okay,
Well,
even though the
see,
Colts have
the
done
way
it,
we're looking at some of these numbers going into this game, it might be another one of them. But yes,
but
you're
it
right.
could happen, right? It could happen. So yeah, I think when there are opportunities, it stands to reason that you should probably get them some run because otherwise, look, you have a responsibility to develop your players regardless of how annoying they may be. It's like having kids. I know you don't know nothing about that, but
Not
it's like,
yet.
but AD Mitchell reminds me of like, like one of my kids. It's like, it's like, I told you not to do this.
Yeah,
You did it, and now you are suffering the consequences. And you make me have to be the one
yeah,
to put the consequences on you when this was so stupid and so avoidable, right?
Yeah.
That's what this is. And so, but then there comes a time when you're just like, okay, I think they learned their lesson. And you don't like seeing them that way, right?
Yeah.
Shane Steichen doesn't enjoy seeing AD Mitchell in the dumps
Nah.
like this, right?
I
You
mean,
don't
the
enjoy
offensive
that,
guru wants everybody at his disposal.
right?
He just wants
And
to be able to
just in
trust you.
terms of like, yeah, just in terms of caring about the kid, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
this
Yeah.
sucks for him, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's not enjoying seeing him go through this because he's clearly wearing this on his shoulder, right?
Right.
He's going through something here. So that's the hard part. You got to have that tough love, and I just think everybody's going to learn from this, and hopefully everybody comes out better for it in the end.
The last thing I'll leave you with is A, do you think the Colts are a legit contender? And I mean Super Bowl contender, 7 weeks in. I know it's early still.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
if so, when is the last time you could say that about a Colts team during your coverage?
They are. They are. And here's why. Because what do most of the recent Super Bowl teams, what do they have in common? They can put points on the board. All right. The best offenses are the ones that are left standing at the end. In the AFC, I know we usually make it about quarterback, and it is, but
Yeah.
it's also as a tangential to that, it's about teams that can score, man. I mean, this bottom line. Think about it. Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, somewhat sometimes.
But typically
uh,
they're I mean years
but right,
past, yes.
Cincinnati, those are the teams that have been in the mix at the end of the season in the AFC. And that is what they have in common is high-powered offenses that can score. And what I love about the Colts is while they don't have one of those quarterbacks with superpowers,
Hmm.
I'm not going to say that about Daniel Jones. He's playing great, and they're lucky to have him. But there is clearly a difference, right?
Right.
Those guys are a cut above. But what the Colts have that I think actually works in their favor is that they have an offense that is so diverse that even if the quarterback doesn't have his best day, they're not really built on that per se. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? They're built
Right.
on the system. They're built on good running game, great offensive line. They don't have a weakness on their offense. Like they really don't. I mean, we've talked about. I remember last year, Kansas City, they made it to the Super Bowl, with like their running game being a joke,
Yeah.
you know, and they made it to the Super Bowl, you know.
Right.
So their defense made a lot of plays, certainly, and all that. But I would say though that this is a more complete offense than even Kansas City's last year. When you think about
Yeah,
it,
that's true.
that was the AFC representative in the Super Bowl. Again, they do not have Patrick Mahomes. He is a decent player, but he's got a couple MVPs I heard. But anyway, I just love the way they're constructed right now, and I don't even know if they envisioned it working this way. I don't know, but the way it's playing out, they're going to be a really tough team to defend by even the best defenses out there. Again, I go back to this: who do you try to take away? What's your game plan if
It's a
you're the
hard
opponent?
question to answer.
What is your game plan? No one has figured it out yet. No
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
The Rams did not figure it out. If
Right.
you really think about it, the team that beat them,
Yep. They gave away
the
two
Colts beat
touchdowns in that
themselves.
game. Yes,
Right.
absolutely. So,
So
um,
anyway, they moved the ball just fine in that game. So anyway, I would just say I think that is what makes them the contender. Obviously, on the flip side, the defense is what could undermine it all, and that is what it is. But they have an offense that can beat anybody. I really believe that.
real quick, last Super Bowl contender for the Colts then for you?
Oh well, for me, I thought it was 2014. They made it to the AFC Championship game. I mean,
Andrew
we're
Luck.
talking like
Yeah.
a lifetime ago. They had the number one offense in the NFL that season as well. So there's a parallel there. Uh, they were scoring 35, 40 points, quite often. It felt a little bit like this season. But again, they had one of those freak quarterbacks at that time, so maybe it wasn't shocking. And they had been in the playoffs a couple years prior to that as well. So that's the last time I have felt this kind of offensive flow from this team. And so that was my second year in Indianapolis. That's how long ago that was. So, um, yeah, it feels a little bit like that. And that team lost in the AFC Championship game to Tom Brady, like a lot of people. So
I heard
they
of that
did their
guy
thing.
before.
Yeah.
So I think again that's probably a good place to leave this on. I wanted to get some of that context from you because you've been covering a team so long, and for me, obviously, it's definitely the best season I've covered. My first year was 2022, which I think everyone wants to kind of forget what happened that year. What a time! Look how far the Colts have come. So we will check in with you all very very soon. Obviously after what is it, week 8 in the NFL, Steven? 2 months in, baby. So,
Already, already.
yes, I will talk to you all very soon. Jim will remain out for some time. Like I said, very positive news for him and his family. I'll let him share that whenever he feels inclined. But until then, stay safe and enjoy the football.